Well, welcome everyone. On behalf of a fascinating group of alumni from the School of Business here, we are planning to bring you a piece of firework of presentations, a combination of presentations this afternoon. And if you allow me, I will start sharing right away. You may have seen the flyer that I'm showing now. It is a flyer that we displayed on social media, and for those of you who saw it on campus, probably there too. So these are the 6 alumni that will share their viewpoints on how you can hack your life. So our presentation today is titled Hacking Your Life, Unlocking Your Passion. I will kick it off if you allow me to. And my part is titled Why You Should Keep Reinventing Yourself. I am Joan Marques, by the way, and I am an alumna from the School of Business, class of 1999, MBA. I'm also serving as the Dean of the School of Business, which I think is a really great honor. So happy to be here, but today mainly as an alumna. And the question that I first and foremost want to raise is why should you keep reinventing yourself? Why is it so important? It seems so tiring, but it is important. And the reason is very simple. The world doesn't stand still. And so you should not stand still either. It is the worst thing that we can do today to ourselves to stand still. And here are some reasons that I put together for that. Industries. If you look at industries and all the things that we once were used to that don't exist anymore, just a couple of examples. Nobody here may even remember what a telegram was, but I remember that in the 60s and the 70s, people would always send telegrams if there were important messages to send in the world. Since we have the internet, the telegram went away. The same with travel agencies. I know that when I came in Burbank, when I came to America, there were travel agencies in every street. Today, we all book our flights online. So a lot of things come and go. And if you see that businesses are doing that, why wouldn't we as people do that either? Or as well, personal growth prevents stagnation. You should know that. And here's the thing. If you don't allow yourself to grow, you don't just risk becoming irrelevant. When you stand still these days, you're actually lagging behind. You're sliding behind. You're not just standing still, but you're regressing. And that is one thing that we really want you to avoid. Adaptability, on the other hand, is resilience in uncertainty. And today's world is just one big amalgamation of uncertainty. So we better be adaptable as much as we can. So what I want to give you today are 5 critical steps. And here is the first one. Make sure that you audit yourself. What do you want to do? Well, regularly, it doesn't have to be every day, but a couple of times per semester or per year, you want to sit and take a hard look at your life and the things that are working for you and that are not working for you. Make that honest self-assessment because that will reveal gaps between who you are and who you need to become. And I'll tell you, 9 times out of 10, who you need to become will require embracing continuous learning. And I'm not saying that you have to go back to school necessarily, but take the internet, go on the computer, read about things, learn about AI. It's going to be one of the topics that we'll talk about. There's so much that we sometimes abhor because we don't necessarily want to learn all those new things, and yet we need to embrace them because we know that if we don't, we are going to regress. So acquiring new skills regularly, important. And then stepping outside of your comfort zone. I actually had a different depiction earlier. I had myself, well, this lady is kind of like an AI version of myself, stepping out of the comfort zone with skis. But then I thought, I'm not a skier, but this is for real. I went to the Doladar in 2008 to study Buddhist psychology. And that's where I learned to work with these prayer sticks. What you see there is a Buddhist prayer stick. And it is the place where the Tibetans live near the Himalayas. So I was there, spent some time with them, and it was a fantastic calculated risk that I took because I went all alone. And I spent there a couple of weeks all alone with those Tibetans. And it was fantastic, but it was stepping out of my comfort zone. So I really am proud of myself for doing that. Now, Another thing that we really want to do if we want to reinvent ourselves is make sure that we build a diverse network because we can learn so much from people from different cultures, from different backgrounds, from different generations. That gives us an innovative mind when we get ourselves exposed to different perspectives. And you never know where your next breakthrough idea can come from, just from having dinner or lunch with somebody that you usually don't talk with, or that you didn't even know had certain qualities or certain activities that they were in. And lastly, make sure that you reflect and iterate. Regularly reassess your direction. Find some quiet time, some me time to sit and internalize all the impressions that you're getting, and then see what it is that you want to take with you and what you need to put aside. Reinventing yourself is important, and it is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong practice. So I'm going to leave you with this statement. Your greatest competition isn't others. It is the outdated version of yourself that you refuse to leave behind. I'm repeating. Your greatest competition isn't others. It is the outdated version of yourself that you refuse to leave behind. And now we're going to a fabulous lady, Mariya with a Y.
Thank you so much, Joan. That was amazing. I took some notes actually. Hi, everyone. I'm Mariya Palanjian, also known as Mariya with the Y. I'm a proud Woodbury alum, class of 2022 and 2024, where I earned both my bachelor's and MBA right here. And
2002 and 2004.
did I say 2024?
Uh-huh. We know you look very, very youthful.
Was trying to trick you all. 2002 and 2004. Thank you, Joan, for calling that out. Wow. Okay. So, time flies. Over the past 20 years, God, I've built companies across the fashion industry, the wellness industry, and advertising, and I've learned one powerful truth. When you know your why, you don't just find purpose, you build momentum, you build companies, you build movements. But before I dive in, how many of you here know your why, your purpose, your calling? If you don't mind, just putting it in the chat, thumbs up or thumbs down. I would love to know that. And I would also love to know how many of you here actually monetize that why, whatever that you're passionate about. Are you monetizing? Are you in a career that's aligned with that? I'm curious. So if you'd like, just put it in the chat. Now, in terms of naming your why, everything really starts here. Joan mentioned a lot of important things, and especially the one that you have to sit in silence and listen to your thoughts, listen to yourself. And this is where really thinking about the things that you want, the things that you're passionate about, this is where it all starts. Everything starts here. Before you build a brand, a business, or even a resume, you build your why. And the why can evolve. It can change over the years. It could change if you're working for somebody or you're self-employed, obviously. But these prompts are just something simple that I've used throughout, I want to say the past 20 years in my career, whether I worked for somebody or I was self-employed. I was always very clear about I had to have a clear message as to what am I doing, how am I helping them, and so on. And so this prompt is just something you can maybe simply copy and paste, screenshot it, put it in your AI and have AI talk to AI and say, I'm passionate about this and that, and the AI can help you come up with one. But once you feel these, I feel like this could definitely help you sort of have that clear vision and not be very focused and not say yes to everything if it's not aligned to your why and so on. Next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of crafting your message, so once you go through the naming your why and really solidifying who are you helping, how are you helping them, you know, aligning it with your purpose, crafting your message is super important, whether you're going to conferences or just simply you're meeting people or you're going on a job interview. It's really important to be able to have that concise message, right? Like know your why and then turn that message into something that others will know you for, right? And so it's really it comes down to sort of marketing and advertising in the sense that we need to build our own brand, and Nike always has its own slogan. So same way as a person, nowadays we're competing with not just ourselves but also with AI and others. And so, how do we stay true to ourselves is really crafting our message and making sure that it's aligned. And a good example would be, when you're going to a conference, you say, I'll give you an example. The way I introduce myself, I usually say, I help government agencies, universities, and tech startups acquire customers in less than 6 months by utilizing city takeover advertising, uh, utilizing omni-channel channels. So that's usually how I introduce when people say, what do you do? Who are you? And then I generally might have a call to action and I might say, if you're interested, here's my business card. Or I can text you or whatever. Just have a call to action, have a plan, and be consistent in your message. Next slide is getting noticed. Getting noticed. So as you solidify your why, you really name your why, whatever it is at that point. Then you solidify the message and come up with a short, concise sort of a pitch, then you want to get noticed. And by getting noticed, and it can vary the channels that you want to use. I just used as an example LinkedIn and TikTok because that's where I want to start creating content about helping people amplify their whys. But it's important to stay consistent with the messaging on all these different platforms and stay consistent with your portfolio, your proof hub. For example, over the years, I noticed that the one consistent thing that I've had, whether it was working for my shoe company or then working for T brand New York Times and then working for myself, I was always amplifying others. I was always taking them and just making them big and creating awareness around them. And so then I realized one day that my favorite thing is to amplify people. And so now I'm building the portfolio of all the businesses that I've amplified. And then I want to start getting that message across to people and say, listen, I have the experience. I've helped Fortune 500 companies, tech startups, universities, and now I can help you. Networking is super important. Joan mentioned diversify your network. That is instrumental. My network is extremely diverse. I work with the government sector and I work with the tech sector, two different verticals. And but I don't limit myself to only networking with them. I go to City of LA networks and I network for the Olympics and so on, because you just never know where you might get your next client, your next job, or just your next friend. And then media and expert signals. I think this is so important for anybody, whether you're an author or you're a professor or a student. Start getting out there and whatever it is that you believe in, that you're doing research on, or you're really passionate about, start finding ways to get in the media. And there are so many ways. I'll put it in the chat, free ways that you can sign up for a newsletter on Haro and you can get constant emails from reporters that are writing about a certain topic. And if you want to comment, you can comment and then you can get featured in places like LA Times and so on. Next slide, please. Finally, keep the momentum going. It's important to keep that consistency, to constantly think about your why, constantly think about reinventing yourself because your why does evolve. I know mine has, but maybe yours doesn't. I don't know. But it's good to evolve in your messaging and your network. Just amplify it. Thank you so much. And if you want to continue this discussion, you're interested, please scan the QR code and I'll also send another link in the chat for you to check your why and see where you are with your why. Thank you. And I'll pass it on to Roxy.
Thanks, Mariya. As a matter of fact, I'm every day trying to find a new why, so I may actually contact you. But along with finding your why, I think it's definitely important to also catch your confidence in the process. And so, on that note, have you ever been in a position where you potentially had to meet or hold a conversation with someone or a group that potentially intimidated you? Have you ever felt that your confidence tanked in those scenarios or other similar scenarios for that nature? And my name is Roxy. I'm an alumna of Woodbury University, a CPA in the state of California, and currently an experienced audit manager at EY. And if you've answered yes to any of the questions about, then I've got a few tips for you to overcome them and help you catch your confidence back. And so we can move on to the next slide. Preparation, body language. professionalism, vocabulary, and AI are all the tools that lead you, you got it, confidence, either in appearance, in fact, or both. And so we can move on to the next slide. Preparation stand in its own. Make sure you have a preset meeting objective. Know your material. Know what you're going to talk about. Prepare for that material. Put yourself in the shoes of the receiver and anticipate some of those common questions and those potential answers that you could give to them. Identify your key participants. Do a little bit of research about them. Know what they do on their free time. Sometimes that could lead to small talk conversation, can build that confidence and create a relationship. And lastly, familiarize yourself with the logistics. You want to know where you park, how to access the building, how to get to the floor, and even the meeting room that you're about to enter in. Body language is equally important. It is very important for you to have a firm handshake. And while that handshake is taking place, you want to make sure you look the person in the eyes. Whether you're sitting or standing, make sure you maintain a good posture. Sit straight or stand straight. Keep your arms open to show that you're open to that interaction with the fellow participants. Maintain meaningful eye contact. You do not want to kind of stare at the walls and not know what's going on, because in those scenarios, you will appear completely uninterested. Mariya had very good purposeful gestures as she was explaining how to find your why. And so that's equally important in the process as well. And definitely control your expressions. Do not roll your eyes in the process. And so moving on to our professionalism, which just stands for the fact of being professional. Starting off with dressing for the part. It is important that you overdress a little, then underdress. You do not want to stand out by underdressing, but rather overdressing. Now, a lot of times when our confidence is a little bit shaken, we tend to start talking and talking and talking. And so it is important for you to pause before speaking. That allows you to, number one, breathe, right? We want to breathe. And then number two, to think about what you're going to say, to think about how you're going to phrase your response or your discussion. Pitch variations and tone control are very important. These are keys that allow you to highlight, metaphorically speaking, highlight the key important aspects of the conversation. You don't want to be in a position where someone has said something already, and then a few minutes later you go ahead and ask the same question or cover the same topic. And so that entails your active listening. Adapt to the environment, and most importantly, make sure you stay calm throughout the process. So moving on to our last two bullets over here, vocabulary, very important as well. You want a mix of colloquial and jargon vocabulary. You want to use words that you're familiar with rather than words that you're not familiar with. In many situations, we want to appear more professional and start using words that maybe we have no clue what they mean, or maybe we're not using them in the right context. And so in those scenarios, it is very common that you will be asked to develop on those topics. And so if you're not familiar with it, then that kind of tanks your confidence a little bit. The word like is very common against your peers, your family, but in a professional environment, you would want to replace those with similar words that make you sound more professional and more confident. And such words would be, for example, an instance such as. Now, for sure can be used without any problem, but it will make you sound more professional if you replace that with definitely, absolutely, certainly, or surely. There will be situations where you will be asked a question and maybe you don't have the answer to it yet, and that's perfectly fine. In those situations, respond with, let me make note of that and I'll get back to you. It is not my current expertise, but I will investigate. Lastly, try to avoid cool. While sometimes it's cool being at work, it is not cool to use the word cool. And you know what I mean? A lot of times put the pressure on the receiver. And so by you saying, you know what I mean, it's basically telling that you're expecting the other person to fill in the sentence for you. And what does that do? It tanks your confidence. Lastly, we want to utilize AI as our friend. We want to utilize AI to prepare and develop our knowledge before such interaction. We can use it for synonyms or jargons. You may be new in the field. You're not very familiar with some of the key words. AI is your friend over there. And lastly, you want to utilize AI for simulated interaction. Now, the key here is to have all five of these aspects working together, but they're interrelated. And so if you can master at least two out of these five, the rest will come naturally and you'll catch your confidence back. And with that note, I'm going to pass it on to Matthew. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruxy. I'm Matthew Middleton. I'm the financial advisor to students at Woodbury University, and we're going to talk about capitalizing on artificial intelligence. There are a series of things that you can use AI for in order to improve not only yourself, but also any organization that you're either a part of or running. And the first one we're going to talk about is using it for starting to learn. So the question, of course, is how to use AI. The easiest way is to use it to get a lot of starter ideas on new concepts. You want to look into what it is that you've thought of, something that is just a gap in your knowledge, and you're saying, I don't know anything about this, and I want to get at least the bare bones understanding. AI is very good at giving you kind of like a general overview that you can then look at and say, does that make sense to my understanding? And how do I go deeper onto this? And you can confirm a lot of what AI tells you through testing. So you sit down and say, okay, the AI said to do this. And then you can go look on Google or something and just make sure, like, is this accurate? Is this good information? And then, of course, do it yourself, or maybe even talk to an expert that you know in the field, getting a real idea. And then further and further you go, you can keep using AI to kind of push your limits and say, now that I understand this basic concept, what's the next aspect for it, over and over again. But as always, one of the most important things is the next bit, which is using AI for what you actually know. And in that, you need to understand that AI misunderstanding is very real. The AI at any moment can just kind of make things up and you'll get very confused. But if you're in that learning mode, remember that you can always double check and test everything. But when you're using it for what you know, you'll immediately go, no, that's incorrect. Or you'll say, wait, I don't remember that being correct. Let me go back and double check that information. You can also catch false information that just requires your personal expertise, where you're like, no, that information is incorrect. Just I know this because of this one aspect. And from there, you can determine what the AI does faster and what you need to do for yourself. So, the AI can write up maybe a very quick brief or a description of something that you've written down, and it'll be pretty good at that. And it'll get, a quick page or two out. Meanwhile, you need to do the larger, 10, 20 page actual writing to get all the ideas down. And then from there, you can examine the current limitations. These can be your own current limitations. These can be the AI's current limitations. And from that understanding, you can really grasp where you're sitting within that bubble and space of yourself, and how to utilize the AI to the best of the ability. And when that's no longer the case, you can use the AI for doing more. Brainstorming sessions, having back and forth conversations for idea fine tuning. While it's always best to use multiple humans for this, the fact of the matter is, if you don't have another person that you can talk to in the moment, you can just tell the AI, give me 30 ideas about this one concept, and boom, it comes up with them immediately. And so you can then go, okay, that won't work, that won't work, that won't work. This one sounds interesting. How do I utilize that? And it just gives this wonderful opportunity of spreading yourself out and getting a better understanding of how you're going to move forward. And you can then talk to your group either after their brainstorming session, so everyone has a set of ideas in case you had to do it separately, or it allows you to give some ideas in the brainstorming session to see if any of them work with the rest of the group. Or if worst comes to worst, there's been no brainstorming, you can at least sit with the group and say, this is what I think are the good ideas, and work with them from that level. You can also, as I said before, have the AI do low-level tasks. It's a lot simpler and easier to just have the AI do a couple of these things for you, especially when you are extremely focused on a high-level priority within the organization. And last, of course, you can have the AI provide basic ideas and concepts for your experts. The translation factor between yourself and others can always get a little bit hindered at times if you just don't know how to properly connect, but an AI knows enough that it can probably connect via multiple paths, especially if you sit down and give it some file information saying, this is I know how this expert works, and this is how he prefers all speech. Please help me when I'm communicating with him to use what is most efficient with this expert. And from there, we're going to move on to the next slide and have the wonderful Sabrina talk about the passion of side hustles.
Thank you, Matthew. Hi, everyone. My name is Sabrina Taylor-Encarnacion. I am a double alumna of the School of Business. I've done both my undergrad and my master's, and I'm also the AVP of admissions here at Woodbury University. I'm incredibly proud to represent a place that has shaped so much of who I am, both personally and professionally. But a fun fact that most people don't know about me is I run a side business where I make custom photo magnets of people's pets, friends, and family. And a portion of every sale goes to local animal shelters and rescues. The idea started during a quiet weekend at home with my dog, who is an adorable corgi, who you will see throughout this whole presentation. She's kind of the unofficial CEO of the operation, and she's definitely the muse. What began as a creative outlet during some downtime turned into a passion project that brings me joy, it helps others, and it supports my local pet community. We can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Now, let me be clear, I love my full-time job. I show up 110% every day because I believe deeply in the work that we do here at Woodbury and the impact that we make. I routinely work 60-hour weeks, and I'm on campus or out recruiting at least 25 weekends during the year. So, am I crazy? No. I found that having a side project does not take away from my job, it adds to my life. So, here is why. It gives me a creative outlet that is entirely mine. No meetings, no performance reviews, just freedom to explore new ideas. It's helped me deliver or develop new skills that I don't necessarily use on a day-to-day basis, like product development, e-commerce, social media marketing, and even supply chain management, which has been very tricky the last couple of months. And most importantly, it adds purpose. Every sale helps a local rescue, and knowing that gives me a different kind of fulfillment. In a world where we're often defined by our titles or our roles, having a side hustle is a reminder that we are more than just our job descriptions. You can go to the next one. Thank you. So, how do you start something like this when you already have a schedule that's very full? The secret is to start small and start with heart. I didn't sit down and make a 5-year business plan. I know Paul Sabolic is on this. Don't be mad at me. I know that's shocking for school of business folks, but I started out by just making some magnets for friends. I took a few hours on the weekends. I tested things out on Instagram. That is how I started. So if you are curious about starting your own project, here's some advice. Follow your curiosity, not always just a trend. What would you do for fun, even if no one was going to pay you for it? Use the edges of your day, early mornings, weekends, sometimes even lunch breaks. You don't need 40 hours a week to do this, but you do need consistency. And keep your boundaries clear. My full-time job comes first, always. That's what allows me the freedom and the security to explore things like my passion projects. So I try to think of it as cross-training for my professional life. I'm developing new muscles, and these skills come back to me in my main role at the university. Next slide, please. Thank you. So I'm going to be honest, it's not all cute dog photos and success stories. It is hard too, right? So there's pros and cons. So some of the pros for me are creative satisfaction, learning new skills, some extra income, community impact, and for me, the big one is personal confidence. So when you build something from scratch, you're proving to yourself what you are capable of. Some of the challenges, of course, time management, mental fatigue. It's easy to blur the line between a hobby and a hustle and burn yourself out by trying to do too much. So how do I keep my balance? I treat my side hustle like a hobby with structure, not just another job. I make space for rest because even though I could work on it 24/7, that doesn't mean that I should. And I am constantly checking in with myself. Is this still bringing me joy? And is it aligned with my values? So if there's something tugging at your curiosity, something creative, charitable, or just plain fun, I encourage you to explore it. Your career is important, but you are not one-dimensional. You're allowed to build something on the side that is just for you. For me, it is custom magnets and rescue animals, but for you, it might be photography, coding, baking, podcasting, writing, volunteering, whatever lights you up. So start small, start honest, and you never know what it might grow into. Thank you.
Hey everyone, I'm Matthew Gilbert. I am a 2005 MBA alumnus of Woodbury, and always a pleasure to participate in these and share the knowledge and share what we learned and communicate that to other folks. So, without further ado, I'm going to give a recap of what everyone else talked about, just to summarize it and give you guys some key takeaways and bringing it all together. So, if you go ahead and switch to the next slide, great. So first, Joan, talk to us about keep reinventing yourself, about how it's important to not stay stagnant, about how if you're staying stagnant, you're actually falling behind, right? That everything evolves, the world moves quickly, especially nowadays with technology, and that we need to basically avoid stagnation and look for continuous ways to grow. And some of the ways that you can do that are to perform an honest self-audit, check in, really understand what you're good at, understand where you have opportunities to improve, and turn those opportunities or those challenges into ways that you can grow and learn and to expand. One of those ways is to come to Woodbury, of course. Um, to commit to continuous learning, which leads into or comes from the conversation about Woodbury. So for me, this is really important. I'm actually a lecturer of marketing at Coastal Carolina University near Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. And I'm actually enrolled in one of our master's programs here. And actually, if all goes well, I'm applying for a doctoral program that'll start next fall. So never stay stagnant. Um, and similarly, you want to challenge your comfort zone. You might not be comfortable doing something. For me, when I started this master's program, I was the oldest one in that class by far. And so I had to adjust to being uncomfortable with that, but using that as a learning experience. Similarly, you want to seek diversity, get different opinions, go to people who you don't typically go to, look for information and resources from people, places, experiences you don't typically go to. That's the only way you're going to grow is if you push yourself. And lastly, kind of wrapping this all up is making reflection a routine practice. Check in with yourself, see how you're doing. Do you feel stagnant? Do you feel like you're moving forward? And if not, make a change. Next slide, please. So then Mariya with a Y talked about her why. um, so she talked about amplifying your why, understanding what your purpose is, what your passion is, about being clear on that, and that your purpose gives you focus, confidence, and direction. And that clarity of purpose turns effort into opportunity. So she talked about something like the why amplifier, with and understanding what energizes you, the type of change you love creating, the people you most want to help, and then identifying these elements transform vague motivation into a clear personal mission. So you might understand what you want to do or have an idea of it, but until you really formalize it and give it some structure, it's hard to leverage that into action. And that really ultimately is what you want to do is put your why into action, not so much that you're helping yourself, but that you can help others as a result of it. So some steps in doing that is one, to define your purpose. So identify who you help and what change you create or help them to create. Two, share your message, get it out there. Much like we're doing right now, we're sharing our insights and our experiences into life, personal, professional development. And lastly, build momentum. You want to review your progress and take consistent small actions to continuously fine tune or to improve who you are and what you're doing. Then Ruxy talked to us about catching your confidence. So she mentioned something along the lines of confidence is a skill that's built through self-awareness, communication, and composure. And that being prepared means knowing your material so that you don't have to refer to slides or fumble over note cards, that you just know kind of from your gut instinctually, muscle memory, what you're going to communicate about so that you can communicate the message rather than having to worry about sticking to the script, so to speak. When you pair that with authenticity, confidence comes naturally. So if you are naturally confident, if you know what you're going to say and you know what you're presenting, you're going to be confident because you know it, right? Professionalism, she talked about how it goes beyond appearance, means staying calm, showing assurance through knowledge and presence, and building confidence through practice, practice, practice. A couple of quick points is to summarize it. She talked about mastering your preparation, being prepared, commanding your body language, be mindful of if you're sitting back or your arms are crossed or if you're leaning in, polishing your communication, look for ways to say what you want to say better, be contextual to your moment, know who you're talking to, know your audience and what they will respond to. And again, leveraging technology is really important. Using AI as a tool to work with it and not let it work for you. We're going to jump into that in the next recap as well. So that naturally brings us to what Matthew talked about, which was capitalizing on artificial intelligence. So his viewpoint was to use AI as a strategic partner, not to let it do the work for you, but to let it work with you to do that work. But the importance of not surrendering your own intelligence to it and knowing that it can make mistakes and knowing that it's not foolproof, but using it as a starting point or a little bit of leverage to help you get going for like brainstorming and things like that. I know I used AI a lot for a lot of different things. I really am grateful for it, but I know that I use it to make me better at what I'm already good at, not to do it for me. AI can process a lot of information fast, but the benefit of being human that at least I hope AI can never replace is that humans give it context, we invoke ethics into it, and we also have emotional intelligence, which are things, at least at this moment, AI doesn't really have. And success with AI lies in knowing what to automate and what to handle personally, so not completely surrendering to it. So you can use AI for a few different things like generating ideas, so brainstorming concepts, exploring topics, and uncovering creative possibilities. You can practice presentations with it, so simulate real life interactions and refine your delivery through AI-powered training scenarios. And this is one of the things I use it a lot for is you can organize and summarize, so let AI help structure thoughts, summarize research, and refine language for clearer communication. Just last night, I had an idea at like 3 in the morning, and I was using ChatGPT to brainstorm a possible book chapter I might want to submit to at some point in the future. And it was just blowing my mind with what it was coming up with, but I had to input the information into it and really wrangle it. So that basically brings us to Sabrina and her passion project with her adorable corgi. My favorite picture of him was the one with the side eye when he's sitting on the stoop. um, so she talked about how pursuing a passion project alongside your full-time career fuels creativity, builds your skills, boosts confidence, and creates positive community impact. And it also ties back into what Mariya talked about, which is your why. It gives you another avenue to explore that and to give of yourself to others. So some of her tips were to start small. So again, I like that note about not making a huge business plan. Sometimes you just got to kind of go with your gut and kind of ride it out a little bit and test it before you get super formal about it. But you also want to set clear boundaries, right? You don't want to be working on it constantly. You'll burn yourself out and you'll turn something you love into something you resent. And that's really a bad place to be. Similarly, as was said in some of the other slides, you want to check in with yourself regularly, right? Again, you don't want to burn yourself out. Are you still getting joy from doing it? And if you're not, then you're either doing it wrong or maybe it's not something you should continue doing. And lastly, celebrate your progress. Even small wins are wins. So you don't have to be taking over the world. You don't have to be Jeff Bezos. You could just, however you want to define success is however it works best for you. And I think that brings us to the end of our presentations, and I appreciate all of your attention, and I'm grateful to have been a part of this great panel here, and I'm going to turn things back over to Joan.
Well, thank you all for putting together this presentation together with me. And I would like to open the floor now for questions or comments, because I'm sure that everybody who is in this room had an opportunity to reflect, had an opportunity to maybe put some pointers, some side notes, some footnotes here and there. So this is your opportunity to weigh in. Who can I give the opportunity to do that? Who would like to weigh in? Or ask a question or have a comment?